Hello everyone, welcome to the daily news protocol of the Hindu newspaper analysis contributed by Vishnu IAS Academy. Today we are going to see the news articles for the date 29th April 2022. In yesterday's session, like previous session, we have discussed an MCQ, right? So let us see the discussion and answer of that MCQ, that is regarding the NCPCR. The NCPCR. Okay, the first statement reads as National Commission for Protection of Child Rights is a special non-statutory body that was formed by the government order. If you can see, the NCPCR is not a non-statutory body, but it is a statutory body. Why? Because it is formed by a statute of the government, that is Parliament, the CPCR Act 2005. Okay, the Commission for Protection of the Child Rights Act 2005. As per that act, the NCPCR is formed, but not by a mere government order. So that's why if a body, if an organization is formed with the back of any statute of the government, that will be called as a statutory body. So hence the first statement is wrong. Coming to the second one, a body to be called as a statutory, it should be backed by any law framed by the Parliament. That is very much right. Just now we have discussed that if to call any body as a statutory body, it should be backed by any law framed by the Parliament. Now let us see the third statement. These statutory bodies are also referred as constitutional bodies as they are legal in India. If we can consider here, the bodies statutory and the constitutional are not the same. They are very much different. Why? Because the statutory bodies will be backed by any act, but the constitutional bodies will be backed by the constitutional articles directly. The mention of those bodies would be derived by the articles of the constitution. So hence both are not the same. So hence the statement third one is wrong. So here if you can see, the question here, identify the right statements, the correct statements among these three. If you can see that the second statement is correct, so hence the answer of the question is B. Okay, with this let us move into the discussion of the day. Our first article to be discussed is regarding the 5G spectrum. Earlier in this week, like in last week, we have seen that the TROI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, has recommended some regulations for the 5G spectrum purchases. If we can see, the Telecom Regulatory in India, it is under the control of the body TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. It will frame the guidelines for the purchase and any functioning of these telecom sectors in India, all over the India. So that's why if we can see the regarding the 5G spectrum, it was in the market, it was in the developmental state right from the year 2018, and now it has completely developed and we are in a state to implement such a spectrums in our devices, digital devices. So that's why the spectrum should be bought. It should be purchased by the telecom operators to be developed that network under their devices. But if we can see here, we may think that the spectrums like that can be allotted to any entity. Those situations were also occurred in India earlier. In the nearly in the year 2012, there was a scam occurred regarding the 2G spectrum. So that was happened because of the allotment of the entire spectrum to one body or one entity. So hence to avoid such scams, from then onwards, from the year 2012 onwards, the authorities and the governments are suggesting to bid those spectrums to different tenders, to different operators, to diversify the usage of that spectrum, so that to avoid any such scams. So that's why here the spectrum should be purchased, but at what rates? Who will decide those rates? Here coming into the India, the TROI, as we have told earlier, the TRAI will decide the prices of that 5G spectrum. So recently the body has announced some cuts in the base prices nearly till 35 to 40%. It has recommended such cuts till the 35 to 40%, but the telecom operators were not satisfied. They are still asking to reduce those cuts till the 90%, as the prices of the 5G spectrum will go higher and higher with such short cuts. But after considering all those requests and protests of the bodies, other telecom industries, TROI has again studied all those recommendations, but the government and the TROI together are sticking to the earlier recommendations to sell those 5G spectrum at the higher pricing. Why? Because they are considering some considerations all over the world. So, as there is the demand for this 5G spectrum, those prices were studied thoroughly and hence those prices were fixed. That is the recent news regarding this 5G spectrum. So, hence, and also the rollout of this 5G spectrum will be implemented till the 2022 by the months August and September. In this backdrop, if we can see the details, some details of 5G spectrum, here I am telling only few facts. Why? Because we have discussed this topic very thoroughly in our earlier session. So, that is why just I am revising those points here. If we can consider the 5G spectrum, it is significantly very faster data rates. It will have the very significant higher faster rates. Why? Because its data rates will be at 10 Gbps to 20 Gbps, and also its connection density will be very much higher. Its speeds would range between 10 to 100 times higher than the 4G spectrum, which we are using right now. Okay, and the latency period. Latency is nothing but to attain or to open any document or to download any document, to get a result out of any search. Like that, results will be done within the milliseconds. 1 millisecond, that is very much shorter time, right? So, that much comfortable features can be achieved by the implementation of the 5G spectrum. And also the bandwidth per unit area will be 1000 times higher, and also the number of connected devices can be 100 times higher, and the availability of the network will be almost nearly 100%, that is nothing but 99.99%, and also the battery life would be till 10 years. So, with all these promising and wonderful features of 5G spectrum, it is giving some hopes and very much interesting and enthusiastic hopes to get such a smart and effective devices in future. Okay. After learning all these things, let us move on to the next topic of the day, that is regarding the landfill fires. What are these landfills? In our metro cities, almost all metro cities will be very tightly packed with the constructions and buildings, and so hence the dump and the wastage coming out of that will also be very huge. Where this should be dumped and how this waste should be managed. So, to answer all those, right now in India, in metro cities, we are having some dump yards called as some landfills or dump yards. Those are not well maintained, and hence those are occurring some accidents like this. Recently in Delhi, a landfill fire was occurred in the Balswa region, and also it is the fourth landfill fire, such landfill fire in this month itself in Delhi itself. And also hence, if we can consider the reasons for landfill fires like that, as there would occur the accumulation of the almost solid waste and all types of waste, it will produce some goba gases or methane, some gases like that. So, methane is such a gas that which can attain the fires very quickly, depending on the atmospheric or weather conditions of that place. So, maybe our experts are suggesting that might be the reason for this accident. So, how can we avoid such an accident? if we can manage and maintain such landfills very well, by treating the waste very well, or by covering that waste with any soil or other means of production, those accidents that can be produced out of those landfills can be avoided successfully. And also, because of this negligence, the DPCC, Delhi Pollution Control Committee, had imposed 50 lakhs fine on the North Delhi Municipal Corporation. So, it would be the responsibility of that governing authority of that place, right? It is the negligence of that body. So, hence, if we can see here, one more interesting fact is that the Balswa landfill is spread over 36 acres. That is very much huge, right? So, that much huge amounts of garbage are being dumped in that place. So, hence, there occurs some management of that solid. There is a need to separate or eliminate that waste coming out of that dumping of that waste over there. So, hence, if we can see any management and guidelines of such solid waste in India, we have so many solid waste managements, so many types of managements like plastic waste management and solid waste management, sewage water management, and also the medical wastage management. We have many rules and regulations formulated under all these categories. We have 2016 rules, those were revised in the 2018 and those were again revised in the 2021. The formulations are being formulated again and again, but those are not being implemented very well. If we can see some points of these, in India we have some initiatives like Swachh Bharat Mission 2.0, which aims to make all cities of India garbage free by the year 2026. It is such a very much nice good initiative to eliminate all cities with garbage. Okay, to make those cities garbage free by the year 2026, and this initiative is working very rigorously. And also, if we can see any measures to be taken, how can all these solids or wastes can be treated? If we can study any possible treatments, biotreatment is very well promised and suggestible. Why? Because with the biotreatment, by treating the waste with microbes or with any other means of techniques, the waste can be treated very well and the solid can be converted into gas or water, and it can be converted into an input for any other industry. And also the segregation of waste at source, it is also very much important. Why? Because while taking up the waste from the households, it will contain the wet waste and the dry waste and the electrical waste. All these types shouldn't be combined together. To treat that waste very perfectly in a very successive way, the wet waste should be segregated and the plastic waste should be segregated to recycle it again. And also the very dangerous and harmful devices, the outdated devices or electrical wastages shouldn't be mixed up with the environment or the soil. So, they also should be treated in another way. So, that is why the segregation at source is very much important. And also following waste management rules, all types of waste management rules very stringently is the very much need of the hour. And the bioremediation is also one more alternative to treat the waste wastes. What is the bioremediation here? It is nothing but treating waste with the microbes. Eliminating wastes from the atmosphere by treating that waste with the microbes. Why? Because microbes will depend on the some food particles and food sources. So, that is why if we can introduce any microbial inoculum into that waste, that will digest that waste and that waste can be eliminated. So, all these are the possible alternatives to treat that landfills and wastes. Moving forward, let us see the next news article that says that treats as or freebies affecting the economic growth of India. What are the freebies here? Here the writer of the article is suggesting that subsidies in India are going forward, going further than the limit. Why? Because if we can consider the subsidies, these are sometimes these are productive and sometimes these are wasteful as well, and that shows some burden on the revenues of the government. Just to get the vote bank or with any personal benefits, the subsidies shouldn't be promised and announced than the limit. This is the opinion announced by the N.K. Singh. Who is N.K. Singh? He is the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission. In a recent economic summit, the chairman of 15th Finance Commission, Mr. N.K. Singh has opined this opinion. So hence the productive and unproductive forms of welfare spending should be distinguished and emphasized. The distinction here is very much important. Why? Because the welfare schemes, the subsidies announced on the welfare schemes should be productive only. If they are not productive or unproductive, they should be avoided and they shouldn't be implemented. Why? Because to reduce the burden on the government's revenue. So hence it is the opinion told by the famous economist Mr. N.K. Singh. So moving forward, let us see the next news article that reads as Centre's Employment Survey finds addition of 4 lakh jobs. That is very much interesting, right? Why? Because we are seeing news that we are in an era of huge amounts of unemployment. So in that scenario, the rates of unemployment are going higher and higher day by day. In that crisis of employment, it is a very nice promising survey which is saying that there has increased the unemployment rate in the year 2022 till 4 lakhs. Hence, the Union Labour Minister has told that the rising trend in employment is in the organized sector. It is well and nice promising point of the economy of India, and also that rise is specifically in the areas of manufacturing, very higher in 2 areas, that is manufacturing and the education. In manufacturing it is nearly 39% and in education it is nearly 22%. It is also well promising factor to be noticed, and also the higher employment was also noticed in the areas construction, trade, transport, education, health, accommodation and restaurants, etc. So in all these areas the employment is going, the rise in employment is being noticed. So in this backdrop, let us see some types of unemployment. We have types of unemployment in our syllabus. So it is very much important to learn all those types. If we can see the disguised unemployment, what is it? It is nothing but a scenario where the employed are more than actually needed. What is that? If we can consider the agricultural workers, agricultural laborers, if we can consider a scenario that in an agricultural field, to harvest some crop of that field, like 10 number of agricultural laborers are enough, but due to lack of work of that day, due to lack of employment, maybe let us consider 20 or 30 people went to that work. They will get employment, they will get work, they will get paid that money, but the amount paid will be distributed among those 30. Earlier it should be allotted to 10 people only, but now as higher amounts of workers coming into that sector, that amount, the same amount will be distributed among the people. So here if we can consider the final product, the final productivity coming out of that work is null, considering the 2 cases, that is 10 people working in that field and 30 people working in that field, the same work will be done. So hence if any people, the employed people are more than needed, that is called as the disguised unemployment. Why? Because with that type of unemployment we can't get any further productivity, we will lose the economic growth in that scenario. Okay. So that can be seen in the agricultural sectors and also in unorganized sectors. Okay. Now let us see the second type, that is the structural unemployment. It is due to lack of required skills suitable for the jobs in the market. If any person, any employee is of lack of any set of required skills, he will be fired out from that company or entity. So hence, because of lack of that skills, the best example for that is in recent years, from so many years onwards, we are seeing that our graduates, the fresh graduates of India are not getting the required placements based on their skills. And hence, the graduates who are graduated from their university are in a need to acquire additional skills to get those placements and jobs. So hence, there occurs the structural unemployment. If the skills learned under their graduation are very much suitable to the market scenario, market employment, that person is not in a need to acquire another and additional skills, right. So hence, that is the drawback of this type of unemployment. So hence, proper set of required skills is very much important to avoid and eliminate that type of structural unemployment. Now let us see the next type, that is seasonal unemployment. No work available during certain seasons. It is also can be seen in some agricultural fields or some unorganized sectors. Why? Because there occur some seasonal, there works some seasonal firms and entities. In agriculture also, we see there are seasons for the production of crops. So if there is no season, that employee would not get any employment. That is simply the seasonal unemployment. And also the vulnerable unemployment, it is very much important of India. Why? Because without proper job contracts and records, here occurs the humiliation part. Why? Because there are no proper contract and the proper record of that employee with that entity, there may occur some humiliation and there won't be any job security of that person. It is also can be considered as the gig workers and the gig economy. In recent years in India, the gig economy is rising higher and higher. And also we have seen some news articles and discussions depending on that governments should interfere in this scenario to provide some recognition and security to those gig workers who are facing the vulnerable unemployment. Okay, it is one of the main types of unemployment in India. It is also important. Okay. And also the next type of unemployment is nothing but the technological unemployment. It is due to advancement of technologies. It occurs in some scenario like that. Let us say consider a person is working in an entity from so many years. He became very much senior, but like after the 20 to 25 years of experience, the newly emerging technologies cannot be attained, cannot be acquired by that person. Why? Because there will be some huge difference between the modern technologies and the earlier technologies. So that disparities and differences of that technologies would result in the technological unemployment. That senior person would be in a situation to acquire those newly emerging technologies. So because of that lack of knowledge of technologies, this technological unemployment would be resulted. And if we can see the cyclical unemployment, what is that? It is based on the business cycle. If we can see the business cycle, we will have the boom and recession, right? If the business cycle is in the phase of boom, it will create some new employment and hence the employment will increase. But the economy is in the recession, if the economy is in the slow pace, the employment will reduce, the unemployment will increase. So depending on the economic scenario, the fast and slow rates of the economy will decide this type of employment, the cyclical employment, which is based on the business cycle. And also last but not the least is frictional unemployment. It is voluntary unemployment that occurs when people switch to other jobs. And also, if any freshly graduated or any capable person is not doing any work, and also he is searching and waiting for any required job he wants. And also, if we consider another case, if a working employee is not satisfied with his job and also he wants to escalate his job profession designation by applying in any another entity. In that meantime, in that period, that person would not be employed. So, that type of unemployment is called as the frictional unemployment. Here the person is switching between the jobs. He is voluntarily doing that, hence it is done based on the voluntary interests, personal interests. So, that is called as the frictional unemployment. Okay? Try to revise all these types, these are very much important for your exam. After that, let us move on to the next news article, that is nothing but the prelims facts of the day. Today, the date is April 29th, right? It is noticed as the International Dance Day. It is celebrated as International Dance Day. In this backdrop, we will see the classical dance forms of India. In India, we have 8 classical dance forms in India. These are those only, as you can see in this picture. So, if we can see, each state represents a type of classical dance. So, the Bharatanatyam is of Tamil Nadu. People mistakenly thought that the Bharatanatyam is of Andhra Pradesh, but it is not. Okay. Andhra's classical dance is the Kuchipudi, and the Tamil Nadu's dance is the Bharatanatyam, and Kathak is of Uttar Pradesh, Odissi is of Odisha, Kathakali is of Kerala, and Satriva is of Assam, Manipuri is of Manipur, and Mohiniyattam is of Kerala. These are important to be remembered, these are some facts. And also we have many types of folk dances in our tribals and northeastern states, in another some cultural groups, we have so many plenty number of folk dances. We will also have some look in our future discussions. Okay. After that, let us move on to the next topic, that is nothing but the question of the day. It is the question of the day framed based on the today's discussion of a news for class. Okay. Try to answer this question in the comment section box below. We will see the answer and discussion of this question in our next session. So, with this I will end the session here. Let us meet in another interesting session tomorrow. Thank you.